Hi, we're back, and I want to briefly go over the EdPUZZLE questions that you did yesterday in class. So, this EdPUZZLE was about um, how traits are passed on from parent to offspring. And I want you to understand that there's a lot more to genetics than this, but we only have a week. And so we just wanted to do a really quick introduction, and you'll get lots more of this. You'll get lots more of this in high school. So let's start. So if it's wrong, remember to fix it. And this is basically review of vocabulary. So if you're having a hard time with it, let me know. Bring it up in class. I can always do something else to help you through this, okay? And remember, science has a lot of vocab in it. So if you have trouble with it, let me know. So reproduction is when organisms have offspring. So in science and in genetics, we don't call them babies or offspring, but I mean babies or children, but that's what they are. But in genetics, we call them offspring. Okay. Number two, when an organism reproduces asexually, remember one parent, its offspring will be genetically identical. And sometimes we call that a clone, right? The DNA is exactly the same thing because there was only one genetic donor, right? There was not a mom and a dad. When organisms produce sexually with two, they get 50% of their DNA from each parent, right? So they get half of their DNA from their mom, they get half of their DNA from their dad. And that's why you look typically a lot like your parents. I mean, there are some kids that look, gosh, they look just like their mom or just like their dad. But more often than not, they look like a combination. And even if those kids look just like their mom or their dad, they still got half the DNA from their mom, half their DNA from their dad. Okay. And you'll find out in high school why that can happen. Okay. Number four, our DNA contains how many copies of each gene? It contains two. Why? You got one from your mom, you got one from your mom, you got one from your dad. Okay. And so two copies of each gene, but you got one copy from mom, one copy from dad. Again, that's why you look like both of your parents. Offspring have two copies of each because they get one randomly selected gene, one randomly selected copy of the gene from their mother, and one randomly selected copy from their father. Six. Because of the way genes are inherited during sexual reproduction, remember two parents, every offspring is genetically similar, right? So they're quite similar to the parents, but they're unique. They are not identical to the parents. That is the big difference between asexual and sexual reproduction. In asexual, not sexual, in asexual reproduction, there's only one parent, right? So the DNA, excuse me, the DNA that's given to the offspring is exactly the same thing as the parent DNA. In sexual reproduction, where there's male and female, half the DNA comes from the parent, half from your mom, half the DNA comes from the dad. And so you put them together, you are still similar to your parents, but you are unique and you have unique traits. So I hope this helped. And again, if you have any questions, make sure you ask in class or send me off a note. Thanks, everybody.